barrister, and I predominantly practice in commercial and public law. I suppose a bit of a niche for me is my passion in human rights law and in human rights in general. And about 10 years ago I started the Human Rights Arts and Film Festival. So we're celebrating our 10th anniversary this year, which is very exciting. And on top of that I also do a lot of dancing. So I perform in various different groups, including a West African traditional drum and dance group called Wasalumba. Also dance in another group called the Public Opinion Afro Orchestra. And also love the arts, so I'm also in a play at the moment which is going to be on in June called The Conversation by David Williamson, and I'm playing the mediator for that. And that's very exciting because I'm just coming back into theatre after about, I don't know, 12 years of not doing it, so it's fun to kind of get back into it. So I suppose I've got a lot of different passions and interests, and I try to juggle them all. When I was a student, I've always had I suppose a humanitarian streak. I've always really been interested in other people and other cultures, and trying to understand why the world is the way it is in terms of inequalities and what we can do to help. A big person who inspired me when I was younger was Nelson Mandela, and I learned a lot about him actually through films and also just through study and through kind of self-exploration about various different human rights issues. And I think learning from that I was inspired to do law. I felt like that was a medium for me to kind of follow my passion and do the work that I was interested in. As a student, what was I like? I was a perfectionist, so I worked really, really hard, but I was also a bit of a procrastinator. And I tended to, particularly when I was at university, try and find any excuse to not study and not do my essays, which actually brought me to starting CRAF. So I had already, I think I was in my 4th or 5th year of university by that stage. I'd already gone to the University of Copenhagen and studied for a full year. I studied human rights and international law. And when I got back, I was actually a bit depressed. Before I'd gone away, I was very active in the law school and organising events for law students to try and get them interested in social justice issues. I organised conferences and events called Beyond Collins Street, for example, to get people interested in professions and careers outside of the traditional corporate sphere. And I kind of came back and felt a bit, I don't know, out of touch or not in the community, and I think having the post-exchange blues. And I was thinking, I suppose, at that point in time, how I could kind of, bring this issue of human rights to the broader community. Because I'd been very much focused on the law students, and for me, I felt that that was a limitation, that, really, when you're talking about social justice issues, human rights issues, there's something that everyone should worry and care about. And I was in my corporations law class, being a bit cheeky and not listening, as I sometimes did. And I decided to just randomly Google human rights and festivals, and discovered that there were human rights festivals pretty much everywhere in the world except for in Australia. And I suppose that's when the light bulb came on, and I decided that yes, that's exactly what I want to do. I want to try and start a human rights arts and film festival so that I can bring this idea of human rights out to the broader community. And I think arts and film are the most powerful ways and mediums to be able to do that, because they are something that are mainstream. Everybody can watch a film, everybody can go and see art, whereas not everyone will go and study law. Not everyone will open up a human rights textbook out of curiosity and think, oh, what does all this mean? And I think one of the most powerful ways to communicate these ideas is through human story. So that's where the Human Rights Arts and Film Festival comes in. With story, it means that you can kind of translate these ideas. You can imagine what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. You can think about, well, gee, what if it was me in that situation and I was in a third world country and I'd been abducted to become a child soldier? What do I do? And, wow, look at these people incredible, inspiring, resilient people who, despite all the issues that they may have faced due to human rights violations, they are able to come through and basically make a huge difference. And so that's kind of where the Human Rights Arts and Film Festival came from my ability to procrastinate and my difficulty at being a very good student who could concentrate for long periods of time. But I think that's been a plus in a way. I tend to be a bit more of a practical person, so I like to learn on the job as opposed to studying, although I love studying. And so that's kind of how I got into, I suppose, thinking and talking about human rights on a global scale. But obviously that has been my volunteer passion. It hasn't been something that I've necessarily been paid for. And so one of the challenges for me, particularly in the last couple of years, as I've gone to the bar and worked for myself, is how I could incorporate human rights practice more into my everyday. I found that my passions tend to be outside of work, and for me it's really important now that I've been in law for 8-9 years to actually bring them into my day-to-day. So the last 6 months in particular, I've really focused on, okay, well, how can I expand my human rights practice? How can I try and get more of that work that really excites me and really interests me, while still doing and maintaining my corporate law practice, because I find that interesting as well and challenging, and of course it pays the bills, which is very helpful. But trying to basically balance both, and that's been quite an exciting little time for me to explore that. It's meant that I've had to kind of go on a bit of a learning journey again. So I've decided, for example, to practice migration law. That's involved me really kind of getting myself up to speed on migration law. It's involved me taking on cases that are quite stressful because the consequences of me getting it wrong are very dire for the person involved. And so that's become quite a big responsibility that I've felt. But at the same time, I feel really satisfied and happy that I'm kind of finally incorporating human rights more into my day-to-day practice. It makes me feel like I'm kind of going on the path that I originally set myself for. I don't really know, actually. I do a lot of different things, I suppose, and both my husband and I are very active in lots of different spheres, and we just do it. There are times where it gets really busy and really stressful, and that can be a bit hard, but often, I always have my dance classes, for example, Mondays and Fridays, and I try to never miss them. I only miss them if something really, really urgent comes up and it makes me miss it, but I always feel a bit sad when I do. So it's always about just, I suppose, being disciplined and trying to make sure that you say to yourself that those things that you love, you've got to keep doing no matter what. And that can be hard sometimes, of course. But yeah, just try and do everything. It means that I'm very busy all the time. We don't have a TV here, so that helps. Okay, so I've had lots of really great mentors, which I'm really, really grateful for and appreciative of. I suppose a lot of my past employers, my bosses, I suppose you'd say, have been been my mentors. So my first graduate job as a lawyer was at Clayton Utz, which is a big corporate law firm, and that's kind of ironic because when I was at uni I was encouraging all the students to go beyond Collins Street, and then I ended up smack bang in the middle of Collins Street. And there were lots of reasons that I decided to do that. One, because Clayton Utz had a really good reputation and was in terms of providing graduates with really good training. Two, it was really important for me to not be typecast at that particular point in time, because I was very much passionate and interested in human rights. I didn't, from the beginning, only want to do that. I wanted to be able to branch out, do commercial law, and also be able to talk to people who are practicing commercial law about human rights issues. For me, it's not a black and white type of thing. And I was really lucky to work for a partner named Fred Prickett, who has been extraordinarily supportive of me throughout my time at Clayton Utz and beyond. And it was really interesting because when I started at Clayton Utz, I felt really nervous and I wanted to hide this human rights part of me, because I thought, if they find out, they'll think I'm not serious and they'll fire me, or they'll think I'm a fraud or something like that. And it was really to my great surprise and appreciation that towards the end of my first year, when I finally settled in Fred Prickett's practice, I told him, oh yeah, by the way, I'm involved in the Human Rights Arts and Film Festival and I'm actually a chairperson, and you know, that's something that I do outside. And he was super supportive, and to the point where he actually encouraged lots of other partners in the law firm to go to the Human Rights Arts and Film Festival events. He was ambassador himself for a little while, and really felt that it was something that I should promote rather than hide. And for me, that was really great because it made me feel like, you know, I could actually make myself at home in a sense and be myself at the law firm. And that was really great because it also taught me not to be, you know, we shouldn't be so black and white about things. You know, if you do corporate law, it doesn't mean you're an evil lawyer. If you, you know, do human rights law, it doesn't mean that you should never ever touch corporate law. There are ways that you can actually balance and do both. And, you know, it's been really valuable being able to practice at Clayton Utes for 4 years, and I learned a lot there. And then I suppose another mentor for me was my next employer, a judge that I worked for. His name's Justice Armand at the Supreme Court. Again, an incredible mentor and support to me while I was working for him and also beyond. And, you know, it was really interesting going from the law firm to the court to see how things actually operated in our judicial system. And to be honest, I'd never really thought about, well, how does it all work, even though I'd been practicing in it. And it was really fascinating working in the Supreme Court for 18 months, which I did, and just seeing how our justice system works. And I've got to say, we're pretty damn lucky here in Victoria because our Supreme Court really operates really well, and all the judges that I met were incredibly passionate about, you know, maintaining a really good, healthy justice system that we have. And I think in, you know, many other countries would be envious of the judicial system that we have. You know, of course, there are always going to be, you know, decisions that come out that you may not agree with, but the level with which the judges that I worked with really thought about the issues and really tried to ensure that there was fairness amongst the parties and that they were administering justice was really impressive and eye-opening for me. So Justice Armand has been a fantastic support for me, particularly in my journey to the bar, because I was studying for the bar exam there, and you know, when I didn't pass the first time, he was the first person to say to me, it doesn't matter, just try it again, and that was really meant a lot to me. And then I think I've also got another fantastic mentor. It's coming to the bar, Hamish Red, who's been a senior mentor to me. So when you come to the bar, you get matched up with a barrister who's of 10 years experience and also a senior barrister. So I've got two mentors, Hamish Red and also Peter Gray, and again, they've both been amazing supports to me since I've been at the bar. Not just in terms of helping me get work, but just also helping me with that transition to the bar, working, coming from a law firm or from the court where you're working in a team to suddenly working for yourself and having to take the full responsibility of all your advice, of all your actions, is a huge shift and transition. And I think one of the greatest things about the bar is that there's lots of support networks there, and this mentoring system that they've set up is one of those. And so they've been fantastic in terms of introducing me to other people at the bar, you know, having coffees with me, having drinks with me, and you know, when times have been tough, being there for me to talk to and kind of work through issues and, you know, be that support. And also another mentor I should add is a guy named Thomas Kane, who I met through Liberty Victoria, which is another human rights organisation that I was involved in. He ultimately came onto the board of FRAF, and he's been fabulous again for the last few years, and just in terms of guiding me through when I wasn't sure what to do with my career, being a soundboard for me, really supporting me with HRAF, the Human Rights Arts and Film Festival, and all the issues that can arise with trying to keep a not-for-profit small organisation afloat. And yeah, just kind of also being there as another kind of emotional support for me. So it's not lost on me that all of these people who supported me are men. And so that's been really, I feel very appreciative and grateful for that. All these people have taken an interest and supported me as a young woman coming through the profession, which is quite male dominated in a lot of ways, but it does provide me with a lot of hope that, you know, there are lots of people out there who are willing to support others through the profession. And I feel like a couple of people that I failed to mention were my parents, obviously, particularly, you know, both my parents came here from a different country, my mum from Malaysia and my dad from Egypt, and they basically had to integrate, had to learn English, had to raise their children in a very different cultural environment, and I think that was kind of challenging for them at various times, because obviously I grew up in Australia with different cultural values than what they may be used to, particularly for my dad, who grew up in Egypt, and where you know, it was really the role of the male to be very protective of the female, and so we had lots of fights when I was growing up as to what I was allowed to do, what I was allowed to wear, and where I was allowed to go. And you know, to my father's very great credit, he really did you know, allow me to be who I was, which was really great. It was not without many fights along the way, but I think, you know, he always had my best interests at heart and really encouraged me to do what I wanted to do, and didn't push me too much to do something, although he did try and push me into medicine, and I was very cheeky and rebellious and decided to not take up the particular subject that I would need in order to do medicine. So he did have an effect there. And so yeah, they've been extraordinarily supportive of my parents in terms of the things that I've done throughout my life, and always kind of supported me, and also my brothers as well. So I grew up with two older brothers, and of course, being the youngest, they also wanted to try and look after me and make sure I was on the right track throughout my career and throughout my life, and they've been really great also at kind of supporting me. Well, as I said before, Nelson Mandela was, I suppose, somebody quite high profile who inspired me at the beginning, in terms of, you know, this one person who really managed to make a huge difference to the world, but most particularly obviously to South Africa. And I read his biography, I remember, when I was in high school, and was just amazed to see the kind of foresight and the strength of this person, and the commitment to, you know, at whatever cost, whether that's his own personal liberty, his own personal safety, would do anything to try to make sure, you know, his people had human rights for all, and also that ability to kind of forgive and bring people together on this journey. And I think that really said to me what an amazing leader you can be, in order to not just serve your own people, but serve everyone and bring everyone together, even after you've been imprisoned and humiliated and tortured, and, you know, had threats made against your life, had your friends and family threatened or killed, to be able to still find it in your heart to forgive, move on, and to bring people together. I think that story in itself has always been a huge inspiration to me. So I suppose for me it was always about, well, what can I do to make a difference? And I certainly am nowhere near somebody like Nelson Mandela, but I suppose I've just tried to make a difference in my own sphere and in my own way. And, you know, I think one of the things that I've really been proud of is obviously the Human Rights Arts and Film Festival, and to see how far that's come, and to see how that's also been a springboard for lots of other people to be inspired and to go on and do really fabulous and great things. And so through HRAF I've really learnt and met a lot about the world and a lot about people, and I think that's kind of kept propelling me to want to try and do good, in the world, and to think about how I can do that in my own small sphere of influence.